So the other day, whenever I created my video for Aventus, it was a couple weeks ago, I created it and then I had a few comments and a few messages sent to me privately saying that I needed to try Nishane Hacivat as it was a better version of Aventus. I never tried anything from the house of Nishane, so I picked up about a week and a half ago, Nishane Hacivat and Colognise. And so I wanted to go through, tell you all everything about them, and then tell you which one that I like better and if it has this comparison to Aventus. So without further ado, let's get it.
Yeah. Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah.
Alright guys, welcome back. This is Randy, aka Fragrance Dude, back with another video. And so before I get into the video, as always, like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell for future notifications if you do like my content. It only takes a minute and it really helps me out. So, I'm going to be reviewing two fragrances from the niche house of Nishane Istanbul. I know that when I started my channel, a lot of you guys wanted me to pick up Ani, but now it's too warm for me to do that, so I'm going to wait until the fall. And then I released my Aventus video a few weeks back. You guys said, especially in my email, that I should pick up Nishane Hacivat. And so I went on my delivery service. I picked up Hacivat and Colognise. I think that's just a international term for cologne. So I'm going to go through them, and instead of just sitting here bullshitting, I'm just going to get straight into the first one, which is Nishane Colognise. It's C-O-L-O-G-N-I-S-E. I'm not sure how that's actually said, but it is an extrait de cologne. I've never actually heard of an extrait de cologne before, but I'm guessing it's just a niche term for a stronger version of an eau de cologne, and it actually makes sense because I'll tell you about the projection and the performance first, and I'll just get that out of the way. So it lasts about 3 to 4 hours. So it really does remind me of an eau de cologne. It projects pretty nicely for about an hour, but then it dies down, it fades, and it's the lighter of the two by far. It's not really that strong of a fragrance, and honestly, I'm not really that mad about it because the fragrance isn't that good. I don't have any of the note breakdowns because, again, this is spur of the moment, so I will tell you what I get from this fragrance. So I will spray it here on this tester, just to remind myself. So, okay, this smells like a fragrance from back in the 80s. Right in the opening, you're hit with a blast of florals. It's like a jasmine and like a neroli mixed together. And then there's like a little backdrop of lemon and maybe bergamot, and they just mix together in the background to give a little bit of a citrusy background, but really not much. The florals are the main part of this fragrance. If you do not like florals, you will not like this fragrance. It is a green, hyper floral fragrance. Almost, I mean, this could definitely be a unisex fragrance, and honestly, unisex leaning feminine. So again, the neroli is the main portion of this fragrance, and then you also get some of that jasmine in there. Over the last couple weeks when I was wearing this, I got it about a week and a half ago, and I was wearing this, and then Hacivat, and then this, then Hacivat, and I honestly hated it every time I wore this, but I was glad that it kind of wore off my skin very easily. Once you get through the mid, you get a little bit of the sweetness. There might be like a fruity background, but really the main thing, again, you're getting is that neroli, and it doesn't change that much until you get into the base, where you do pick up a bit of vetiver, a different type of floral note, and then a little bit of woods. But for the most part, this is a floral heavy fragrance with a little bit of a sweetener in the background, and then after about an hour, you can hardly even tell it's there. You also do get a little bit of musk, and again, you get some of those citruses, and then almost like a greenness, like a tea leaf or something like that. But it's not realistic. It's almost like a synthetic note in the background. But instead of trying to confuse you guys, this smells like a soapy flower fragrance, a soapy floral fragrance that has a little bit of woods and vetiver in the dry down to give it this little bit of dryness and almost a little bit of smoke. But really, what you're getting for the most part is a hyper floral fragrance that just is not up my alley, and it doesn't last very long. If I would say this was to be worn, it would be spring and summer. Those would be the only in daytime. I would not wear this out at night. It would be a good daytime fragrance if you like this type of fragrance. But to me, it is like an 80s older fragrance that is not up my alley. Again, extrait to Cologne. That is Nishane Colognise. Not really up my fragrance alley as far as the type of fragrances that I prefer wearing. So the next one I wanted to talk about here is the one that's been hyped up out of control, and that is Nishane Hacivat. Let me see if you can see it up close. No. All right, so Nishane Hacivat, I haven't really heard much about it outside of seeing thumbnails while scrolling through. I don't really do any kind of social media anymore outside of creating videos and maybe talking to a few of my subscribers. But I've seen a few thumbnails saying better than Aventus, or this is like Aventus, or I've had the people again in my comments or on my email saying that I need to try it because it's like Aventus. So I will spray it on this tester right here and let you know what I pull from the fragrance. Yep. So right in the opening, you are hit with a very similar type fragrance to Aventus. I'll give you a little refresher on Aventus. In the opening, I get this pineapple bergamot mixture they are really known for that pineapple and bergamot mixture that has a little bit of a sweetener in the background from this juniper and apple. And then you get some of that birch and incense, but only a tiny bit in the opening, giving it some woody smoke. And then as you work your way into the mid, into the dry down, those woods, the smoke from the incense really pops out, becomes the main players, and then you get some of that ambroxan throughout the whole thing, a little bit of musk, and that is Aventus. So in this fragrance, in the opening half hour, you really do get the vibes of Aventus if you took out the woods, the smoke, and maybe a little bit sweeter. So you get that pineapple and bergamot that legit remind you almost exactly of Aventus. It's actually more similar to a more fresh version of the Club de Nuit Intense Man. I actually get more vibes of that because it has less of that smoke, less of that woods, actually none of the woods, none of the smoke. You get the pineapple, you get the bergamot, and then you get a little bit of this sweetness and mossiness in the background, like a green tinge. So again, in comparison to Aventus, is it 1-to-1? No. Is it close? Yes. It's one of the closest Aventus openings that I've smelled. If you just take out that little bit of birch and a little bit of smoke, then you are left with Hacivat. That is pretty much it. I still like Aventus opening better. I don't see many people that wouldn't. And then when you get about, again, half hour into this fragrance, that is where this fragrance completely changes and Aventus becomes much better than Hacivat. When I first sprayed this fragrance on about a week and a half ago, I sprayed it on my arm, and then my wife asked me a question, then I had to do something for her, then I smelled it. And so when I smelled it for the first time, it was about 15 minutes or 20 minutes in, and I didn't like it at all. And so I found out the reason. The second time I sprayed it, I loved it. And then I found out it's about 20 minutes to a half hour into this fragrance is where it really starts to change. That oak moss really comes and becomes the main player of the fragrance, as well as some woods and a little bit of musk. A little bit of musk. So this fragrance just really, I'm going to smell it again. Yeah, you're not going to get much of it on there. Actually, on the tester, the oak moss comes out a little bit quicker. So spraying on the tester, I can actually smell the oak moss a little bit more in there. If you do not like green, if you do not like oak moss, or if you do not like green oak moss, you will not like this fragrance. I can tell you that for a fact. You'll like the first 5-10 minutes at most. But anyway, once you get to about 20 to 30 minutes, here's the citruses and the pineapple. They start to dissipate. The oak moss and the woods become the main player, with the oak moss being the prominent note. And you can tell this is if I had to label this, it is a mossy fragrance with a citrus fruity opening. And that is what you get. Once you get to the dry down, the moss is the main player in the fragrance. The citruses and the pineapple are just background notes for the next hour to 2 hours, and then they are completely gone, and you are left with the next 6 to 8 hours of the dry down, which is going to be pretty much just an oak, mossy, woody, slightly musky fragrance. Almost has like a bit of an ambroxan feel, but it's like a little bit bright, it's a little bit fresh. I just not the biggest fan of the dry down. I would still go with Aventus Cologne, things like that over this. Would I wear it? Yes. Would I buy a full bottle? No. Honestly, this amount is going to get me exactly what I need for the next however long. If you do like Aventus and you do like green fragrances, I would definitely recommend giving this a try. At least test it out. It is a niche fragrance. It does cost a decent amount of money. So I would try it out in something like this before you actually bought it. But this is not going to be for everybody. It's a like, not a love for me. If the opening stayed prominent through the base, or they kind of didn't utilize that mossy note as much as they did, then maybe I might like this more. But for the most part, neither of these fragrances really wow me. Again, the Colognise is just very green, very floral, and it's just a very dated fragrance that has a bit of citruses in the background for the first hour or so, and it doesn't last very long. Then you got Hacivat, which has the Aventus opening without the birch and smoke, and then you have this oak moss and woods that really take over the fragrance, and you get a bit of musk. Those are the two fragrances. Hacivat lasts about 8 to 10 hours. I haven't worn it for more than that, so it could last longer. It projects pretty well. I'd say about above average for 3 hours, and it stays there for quite a long time after that. It's just that's the main part of the projection. So as far as that, it's pretty good. So if you guys have any questions about them, or if you've tried them before, let me know. If you have any other Nishane fragrances you want me to try, also let me know. There are other ones on their site. But I'm going to end up returning Colognise and getting something in its place, because the place that I get these from does allow one return a month for free. So thank you guys very much. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll be back with another one.